Well, Carlos Rodon got it done. And you know what? I feel like this is one of the more important wins of the entire year. Not only do they go to 13-7, which of course puts them 6 games above 500, which is the best they've had all year. But Gary, people are going to look at this one of two ways. If you're, more of a pessimist, you're going to say the offense sucked today. I was not surprised. I did say ahead of time Rasmussen was going to run roughshod the Yankees. Now,
You sure did.
He looked really good. I don't necessarily think he dominated, but I thought he looked really good, right? He gave up the run, whatever. But the thing about this game, Gary, is this is a test on what you are going to be later on in the year. When you win 1-0 games, I don't, and I know maybe I'm wrong for this, Gary, but I don't look at it like, wow, no offense today. I look at that like that is a really tough win. 1-0 games are hard to come by. And never at this point in the game did I ever feel like they were going to lose this game. As weird as that sounds, I never once felt like they were going to blow this lead. Because I trust Luke Weaver. At this point right now, I trust Mark Leiter Jr., I trust Cruz. God, Cruz looks so good. And all we ask for is 5 1/3, I think is I'll do 5 innings out of the starter, but Rodon he dazzled today, Gary. They needed that. It was huge. He came through, and the Yankees got win number 13.
Yeah, early super chat here. And before we get to this, guys, make sure you like and subscribe. And the likes were incredible in our last episode. Super chats were fantastic. We appreciate the support first and foremost. So
appreciate you guys.
But to your point, I want to get to the super chat first. He says, Golden Spatian with the 2, thank you. Golden says, best start for Rodon in a Yankees uniform. I would disagree, but I will say this. When your expectations are what they should be for this player, which is that he's just a starter on this team, and when he gives us quality starts, we should just be thankful and happy they're happening and just try and ignore his contract. That's where we're at, right? You got Heel coming back at some point. Schmidt just returned. He actually looked pretty sharp as that start went on. So Yankees fans in general should be thrilled about how this went. If I told you before the game we were going to win this game 1-0, you'd say, how would the Yankees have possibly have gotten that done? They've blown through their bullpen this past week, right? Will Warren gave us nothing. Aaron Boone said, well, I didn't want to go 7 1/3, but they forced my hand, and I felt like there was no opportunity to win that game if I didn't go to the bullpen right away. So you show up today, and I tweeted, Jake, I said, if Rodon doesn't go 7 or 8 innings, this team is in trouble. And sure enough, Rodon was sensational today. I thought in general, he detected very early in this game. He had arm side. They were calling that side of the plate all game long, and Rodon went to that well. He had a couple walks, which is in large part why I wouldn't say it was one of his best starts, if not his best start. But this is one of those grinder games. It was a grind fest out there. If you look at Paul Goldschmidt, Trent Grisham, and Cabrera, they were 5 for 10, right? A lot of production from that trio. Everyone else, 0 for 20. And when you win games 1-0, that's sort of what the stat line looks like. They had 3 hits on the other side as well. So a lot of good happened today. There were some incredible plays defensively. We'll touch on all of them, but sensational day at the park.
Yeah, I would say the game he had last year, we didn't actually do a show together. You did it alone because it was the draft, right? It was against Milwaukee. I would say that was probably his best statistical start. I think he gave up 2 hits in that game, had like 9 strikeouts. The best start, in my opinion, for Rodon as a Yankee. And I like the enthusiasm, and I appreciate the super chat, Golden Spatian. It's got to be Cleveland, man, in the playoffs. That game, that was so important. They needed that. He got the win. He had 9 strikeouts. Keep in mind, this was after you and I said against Kansas City in that first round, look, this isn't good enough. He needs to come through, and he did not in that game. And you and I were really worried about him the rest of the postseason, and he bounced back in a huge way against Cleveland. And look, he might not have been as great the next time out, although he wasn't that bad, but he gave up, I believe, 3 hits against Cleveland, 9 strikeouts. Okay? That's a postseason game. That's about as big as it gets. So I'd push back on that. He was not great against the Dodgers in the World Series. We know that. But I think that Cleveland game, Gary, is the best game Carlos Rodon has pitched as a New York Yankee.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Luis Soto with the super says 15 Ks by Yankees pitchers tonight. Impressive.
Crazy.
Yeah, and not only did we strike out 15 guys, sensational in its own right, but that's when you're not bringing your ace stuff, okay? We love what Cruz is doing, and what's proving here today is that Cruz and Leiter Jr. are now our go-tos, first out the bullpen. It's clear as day the Yankees are choosing to operate in that way. And the most important part about this, I know we said our infield defense was improved, and you saw it today from Paul Goldschmidt specifically. He was absolutely lights out over at first base, a huge upgrade. We're not even talking the bat. Over at first base, he's running balls down, right? He's making the proper throws. There was a ground ball to first base today, and Paul Goldschmidt is hustling to home plate. Why? He wants to make sure the runner at third base is going back to third, right? And he gets him in the pickle. We tag him out. Huge plays. And you look up at the scoreboard and you say it's 1-0. Those are plays the Yankees just didn't get done last year. So if you want to win these games where we say, Jake says, oh, I thought that game was going to be a win. I just felt that way. Did you ever feel that way last year? Personally, no. I didn't. So that's a major improvement, an improvement we said had to happen. So, you know, as Luis Soto brings up in this super.
It was.
Yeah.
It was the most entertaining 1-0 game in quite some time, I would say.
They made some great plays. I mean, they're scaling the wall, robbing Ben Rice of
I don't
a
want
homer,
to talk about it.
which was sad to see, especially given his numbers. We wanted to see that one desperately go out. I think the only other guy that we would have loved to see hit a homer more was probably Cody Bellinger. But
that's true.
But there were a lot of amazing plays in this game. So pretty crazy. Scott with the super says Goldie's play on the rundown shows his value. Just thinking the game, Jake, right? Just thinking about it. Ground ball to you. You see the guy going too far off of third base. What would we have done last year? We probably would have pat our glove, decided to throw it home. The runner at third probably would have been too close to third base, and he would have went back to third. And now we're sitting in a pickle, third and first, and we're hoping to God for a ground ball. And there probably would have been a ground ball, and it would have been a fielder's choice RBI, and now we're talking about a tie game. And we maybe lose this game in extra innings, or hell, even in regulation. So my feeling is that if you want to win these games 1-0, if you want to protect 5-run leads in a World Series game against superior talent against the Dodgers, you have to be able to play stylistically in this way. And Jake, I thought in general it looked really good for this organization to be able to go out there and play this way.
I completely agree. And I think it just goes to show you, to Scott's point, having a guy like Goldschmidt, smart, conscientious player, been around a long time. He has the P word pedigree. But I had
Did
to
you
do it
notice
today.
I totally got it out of my vocabulary? I'm like afraid to use it.
I know. It's so funny. It's like you went from saying it like every show, and now you're like, just when you're about to, you're like, nope, not doing it.
I refuse.
But no, Goldie is a huge upgrade. Let's be honest here. If he stays healthy, he's going to have a chance at a batting title. I'm being honest with you. And this is what it kind of coincides with what we were talking about yesterday about this being a better team. And remember I said it wasn't really remotely close? Remember I said that and people were like, probably like, what?
You did say this, yes.
Here's why. Because Goldschmidt this is sustainable. This is 20 games now. Like, okay, guys get off to good starts. 20 games. Gary, he is batting .373. Okay? He's finding ways, and this is the funny thing. Someone asked this yesterday, or it was via comments. Either way, I saw it. Are you at all concerned about Boone moving around the lineup? And my answer to that question is no. Because I don't want to hear it about Jazz or anybody that's struggling, because I'm watching Paul Goldschmidt go from completely different opportunities. We're talking about him table setter, leading off, having success, then being the number 2, being cleanup, then being 3, then being 5, and he just continues to mash. What that tells me is this guy is going to be up there for the batting title. So in a weird way, just Goldschmidt alone, Gary, might replace Juan Soto in the lineup. No joke. That's
You're talking about
in
the short term.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in the short term, you might have already replaced Juan Soto with just Goldschmidt. Keep in mind, he was the guy they got at near the end of everything, right? He was a late signing. We went live. We had like 17,000 views on that. People were like,
yes, he was.
Wow. They got Goldschmidt, big name, right? Had a really good second half. That's what we kept saying. Like, Christian Walker was a guy, we had people on that said, okay, they're probably interested in him. And they had interest. They didn't like the price. I give the Yankees a lot of credit, by the way, because I said it, you said it. It was the battle of mid in free agency. Let's be honest here.
Wasn't great.
They were like, you know what? We're going to be giving money to one of these guys. We might as well give it to a guy that, at his best is MVP caliber. And at the end of last year, I know he's getting older, but he still has it. It's funny. There's a player who you probably know exactly what I'm going to compare him to. He's on my Rams. He reminds me of Matthew Stafford. Just all reliable. Continues to get it done.
Yeah.
And Matthew Stafford struggled at the beginning of the season, but down the stretch, there's not really any quarterback that you would rather have late in those moments. Right now, Goldschmidt, there's not too many guys that I want at first base over Paul Goldschmidt.
Yeah, and we have to remember here, Paul Goldschmidt is effectively a super Band-Aid. And what we have to remember, again, we got this player on a 1-year contract, okay? Everyone, and I mean everyone, when they heard that Kyle Tucker was available, a lot of us said, oh, okay, Luis Gil, maybe we can throw him in a deal. You bring Kyle Tucker here. Part of the Yankees mentality is we did it before. We got Juan Soto through the door, made a World Series. It was spectacular. But kind of bit us in the butt. It was a 1-year deal, and then we ended up with nothing in the end. So now they look at it and say, how can we get better while simultaneously leaving the door open to go get the player when he's a free agent in Kyle Tucker? Well, you go get a Paul Goldschmidt, and he just so happens to be hitting 370 plus. He's not going to hit 370 by the end of the year. He might not even hit 325. But if I told you guys that Paul Goldschmidt's going to hit 285, he's going to hit 290, wouldn't you have taken that? Of course I would have. If you told me that Paul Goldschmidt is going to perform the way he did in the second half with St. Louis, I would have told you, oh, the Yankees really won this. They really won this free agency pickup. The battle of the mid became us bargain binning, and we found a steal is what we found. So not uncharacteristic of the Yankees to do this. Obviously, it pisses us off in the meantime while it's happening. But when they do hit, it really works out because now we get Paul Goldschmidt, and then you get to turn around and have the flexibility to throw Ben Rice at first base next season and potentially bring in a Kyle Tucker. So I wanted to bring in a comment that I was gonna bring up about the relay because I thought the relay changed this entire game. I'm going to be completely honest with you, and then I'm going to get to these supers. Thank you guys. We got a lot to catch up on.
Yeah.
But there was a play, and Jonathan Aranda from Tampa hits this ball to dead center field. Now, obviously, Trent Grisham doesn't get to this ball. And so you must say, okay, the defense has to know with 0 outs, what are we trying to protect here? We cannot allow this base runner who can run to get to third base with nobody out. And the golden rule of base running is never, Jake, to make the first or the third out at third base. Never. Okay? So what did the defense do? The Yes broadcast brought up right away. Jazz Chisholm was screaming 3-3-3. What would most defenses have done that are sleepwalking out there because they know it's game 17 of the regular season? They would have Cadillaced it out to the wall, set up for a relay to second base, and then decided, oh, God, he's trying to push it to third base. And that's the difference between making it and not. So for me, those are the plays I watch where a baseball team, if you really want to know in October, can I trust these guys when everyone's butt's puckered, when everyone's freaking out about the next out, where are we going to get it? It's going to be a 1 or 2 run game. Teams that make that decision at some random game in the regular season, they have the characteristics that you can trust when it matters most. So that play alone, I absolutely love that play, Jake. I thought it was sensational.
I did too. And by the way, they threw 2 guys out today at third. So that was,
yes, they did.
That was huge. And I'm going to say it. This is why yesterday I said this is a better team. Gary, I am not confident at all of them getting either of those runners last year. And this isn't just revisionist history. I mean, the numbers are on my side here. Last year's defense was atrocious. And I'm going to be honest with you. He who shall not be named was not great in right field. He had a couple nice, throws, especially to start the year against the Astros.
Can you mention Judge as well, who was also not in his home position?
Yeah, Judge was in center. So now you don't have as great of an athlete as Judge is at that size. He's not a great athlete. I need people to understand that. He is not like incredibly athletic. He's not a blazing speed guy, right?
He's probably league average out there in center field, which is not what we're accustomed to.
And I'm not saying Trent Grisham is like the greatest thing since sliced bread, but he is a good defender. And Cody Bellinger, we've already seen having Cody Bellinger. Yes, right now he's lost at the plate. I'm not going to deny that. But what he's done in the field has been huge. And so I do look at last year and I think, how many runs did Juan Soto essentially give up in right field? And in conclusion to that, being in right field, like you just mentioned, Judge in center, how many runs did Judge give up being, in my opinion, out of position, right? So, I mean, we saw it, was it 2 days ago? Judge throws somebody out. Was it at third as well? I mean, gunned him out.
I can't remember which base it was, but the point resides that when Aaron Judge is forced, and mind you, we would force him to another position any day of the week when you're bringing in a talent like that because we know what we're getting offensively. We're not going to argue that.
Absolutely.
But what we are arguing is when you lose a player like that, in some ways you can get better. And you need to get better substantially in those ways to make up the ground. And it's what the Yankees have done. So you look up now, and Ed W. with the Super says, nice to sit pretty with two elite closers. Again, something the Yankees did by getting Max Fried. They had a surplus in the rotation, so they thought. They trade Nestor Cortez, and you end up with Devin Williams. And Luke Weaver, who Jake, before we went live, mentioned, this kid hasn't lost a lick of confidence pitching outside of the ninth inning, and he's absolutely right. Because we know when the game's on the line, that's the man. Yes, Devin Williams may be the closer. He may be dealt with the assignment of the ninth inning. He's accustomed to that. And we can trust him now, especially as the season goes on. He'll get better and better. But Jake, Luke Weaver's our man. That is our top dog in the bullpen, and he knows it. Everyone knows it. So to Ed W's point, we have two elite closers, and you see what Cruz is dealing with right now with that splitter. He's almost dealing with well, first of all, his whip is .81, and we know what's been happening with his control. So if you want to see what type of stuff a player has, if he has hardly any control to speak of and your whip's under 1, what does that tell you about how much contact he's given up? Barely any at all, Jake. So what are bullpens doing? I mean, you can't speak enough about it.
And it's going to get better. Like, some of these guys are going to improve. Yarbrough's going to get more confident and comfortable in his role. And then you're going to have other guys. Like, you'll have Johnny Lowe. I don't know how long you'll have him, but you will. And, of course, Jake Cousins. There are other guys that are coming into the fold here. I do want to set the table before we get into the Super Chat here. I want to set the table for you here. Game 7 of the World Series, right? Ideally, you would want... Hear me out. Just humor me. Ideally, you want Max Fried going 5 or 6 innings. And then say you're going against the Dodgers. So we'll say 6 innings.
Okay.
7th inning, you're putting out Cruz. Disgusting.
Yes.
8th inning, pick your poison. Do you want to put out Devin Williams? Do you want to put out Luke Weaver? And then do the inverse in the 9th? That's what the Yankees are looking at if they can get there. This is why I think if Cruz can keep this up, which I think he can, Gary. I think he can. We are looking at the best 1, 2, 3 punch potentially out of any bullpen in baseball. And that, to me, is exciting. And obviously, of course, if it was a Game 7, you'd have your ace, and that would be Max Fried. I'm just saying, setting the table, kind of giving you some scenery about what we could be looking at in the playoffs. Not just a Game 7 of the World Series, but a Game 7 in any case. That, in a perfect world, that is who you would want that 7th, 8th, and 9th to be.
Completely agree. And so Luis Soto's super chat says, love the wins, but man, Jazz, Bellinger, and Volpe hitting is just bad right now. Could not agree any more than, it's not any more possible for us to agree more. But let me say this, Luis, because first of all, thank you for supporting this channel. I'm going to say this. If you had to ask yourself, what is it that you really need when guys are struggling? And you'd probably say we need to be able to pitch, right? And you're going to have to be able to come through. Well, now, Jake, you just listed 3 guys who now can carry the load, at least in the short term. 2 of those guys is long term. But one of them in Cruz is a project that's just working out right now. Clear as day. He's popping off the screen. Now, if you look up the career numbers from Jazz, the career numbers from Bellinger, and we're not talking about the MVP seasons. We're talking about the average Cody Bellinger season, right? The average season from Jazz Chisholm. It looks a lot like 250, drive in 65 to 80, right? Steal some bags, pop some homers, and play great defense. Now, the one thing all of these players are doing so far is playing sensational defense. Volpe it looked semi like a jump throw today. Didn't leave his feet, but it was great, okay? So that play was sensational. Cody Bellinger sliding down the left field line, trying to cut down the runner at second base. Another great play from him, and he's been playing great. Saved us a game the other day in right field. So my point is this. Yes, we should be worried about these bats in the short term, but these arms right now are punching back at the right time. These bats are doing nothing, and it's not going to last all season long. I promise you. There's going to be a bat in this lineup that you're like, oh yeah, he just never woke up. But it won't be 3 of them, okay? Anthony Volpe, I don't know if people know this. He is 3 for his last 34. That is atrocious. And we're still finding ways to win games, and he is finding ways to make an impact. So what happens when they start hitting? Luis, what does it look like if Bellinger pops a homer or 2 in a series? Well, now the Yankees get pretty good, don't they? So that's where I'm looking for. Like, I'm looking for the excitement of what could be when these guys perform.
Yeah, I'd like to point out, by the way, the Yankees are now first in the AL. So, all that panicking and everything, and they're leading the AL right now, Gary. They're behind. And actually, I want to bring attention to this. First off, the West is insane. The NL West is absolutely insane. All 3 of them.
As is tradition.
So, the Padres lead the league 15-4. Dodgers are 14-6. The Giants are 13-6. So, understand the situation here when I explain. The Yankees are leading the AL, Gary, and they have played the 3rd best team in the league in the Giants right now. They played Detroit, who is the 3rd best AL team.
Shut us down.
Arizona, they played, right? So they've played some pretty good teams right off the rip.
Yeah.
And here they are sitting at 13-7. And, oh, by the way, the Milwaukee Brewers, who everyone was like, oh, maybe they're just terrible, and the Yankees just beat up on a bad team. They're 10-9 now. So I understand.
I knew it.
I understand it's early. I understand it's early because they just don't go away, dude. They
never do.
Everyone's like, oh, this is the year they're finally bad. Nope. So I understand it's early, Gary, but my point is that you could argue, and I don't have the stats in front of me, the strength of schedule is among the best in the league. And they're the 4th best team and the best team in the AL entirely right now. So we'll see if this continues. I did predict them to win the AL before the season. And part of me does believe they're going back to the World Series and rematching against the Dodgers, which I'm not going to get into that right now because you don't want it to be a sad story. But as it is right now, I feel really good about where the Yankees are at. And like you said, yeah, these guys are slumping. But what we don't talk about is baseball, there are cycles. And the guys that are really struggling right now, like I don't think Cody Bellinger is just going to be terrible the rest of the year, right?
No chance.
So I think these guys are going to turn it around as well. And I don't think just because these guys turn it around, it means the guys that are playing well are going to struggle. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't necessarily, I think you will catch kind of like in the middle where the great hitters are still really good and you get the slumping hitters that are also hitting well. I think you will get that. And that is going to be a really hard team to stop in the regular season.
Yeah, and I want to get to the super from Alex Reyes. Alex, thank you very much.
You guys
for
are
the
on it
fives.
today. I love it.
They sure are. Jazz has 0 fight in his at-bats. He needs to sit and rethink his approach. I don't really think anybody would argue against that. His at-bats have been atrocious. He clearly looks like he's guess hitting. It's too early to panic, but he has 0 approach, and it's honestly an auto out. Yeah, Jazz Chisholm is an automatic out. There's no question about that. He's going to hit home runs. He's got the power. He's got the talent. Nobody's going to really throw any remix to that. We know where the power is at. But there needs to be a baseline output day in and day out, and Jazz Chisholm's struggling to reach that. And that's something that he's going to have to work on as a player. He could go to Miami and struggle for 2 months. Nobody's going to give a rat's ass. They just won't. Excuse my French. They will not care. Okay? But then you can pop 10 homers in a month. They'll throw you up on SportsCenter, and then we won't see you again for a year. Well, here with the New York Yankees, part of what makes this organization, and there's a couple other organizations out there where people are watching you every night. The Yankees are one of those teams. So you're not going to be able to be this streaky. The Jazz Chisholm is going to have to find some way to be more consistent with his at-bats. And I guess we don't have to worry about him getting a day off or rethinking his approach because he quite literally is suspended tomorrow. Okay, and that kind of segues us into this conversation of Jazz Chisholm. And for those of you who don't know, Jazz was ejected from yesterday's game, and he immediately went to the locker and grabbed his phone and tweeted, okay, this is against league rules, about the umpiring, okay? And for those of you who think, okay, well, I don't like the ejection or I don't like the suspension, it is quite literally in the rule book. And Jazz Chisholm's comments were, I completely agreed with it. And you can't possibly, they actually asked him about it, and he said, well, I mean, I just don't care about it. We don't expect you to care or be upset you were ejected, or we don't necessarily have a problem with your comments about the umpire. What I care about, okay, as a podcaster, like I'm a co-host on this show, what we care about as Yankees fans is that you care about things that impact the Yankees negatively, okay, or positively. Those are the things that we ask you to care about. So if you get in trouble and it causes you to not be on the field, now the New York Yankees, specifically Aaron Boone, has to make a decision. Somebody else has to play second base tomorrow, and that may hurt the Yankees' chances to win a game. So that's where I think he should care. Now, if you explained it to him that way, he probably would regress. He'd probably say, oh, no, I do care. But that's kind of where I'm at with Jazz. He's just sort of all over the place, just like popping off left and right. I think he needs to hone it in a little bit. Don't not be yourself. Be yourself. But Jake, going to the locker room while the game's going on and sending off tweets is just stupid, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's really just not a good look, especially because we defend him all the time. We said that, he got a bad rep and all that, right? And I feel like the Yankees went out of their way and defended him. But when you start doing stuff like that, it's no different than the Odell Beckham Jr. kicking the kicking net, pushing that down. It's like now that's forever stuck with him.
Yes.
Because of that. Now, no matter what he does, he will always be considered a diva by random people that have never met him. They don't know what he's like. They don't know anything about how he is in a locker room. But they saw that one instance, and they're like, diva. And that's the thing. Jazz, if he's trying to, fix that, and he said he doesn't care. Maybe he doesn't care about this, but if he's trying to fix kind of that persona, this doesn't really do it. You're kind of playing into that. And really my thing is this. I understand maybe the rule you don't agree with, but it is the rule. So it's already in place. You already know about it before the season. Don't send out texts. You could be on your phone after the game, right? You got kicked out, fine. But why send a text? And that was against the rule. So let me make that very clear. That is against the rule during a game, which makes sense. It sounds ridiculous to even text during a game. But also doing it to criticize an umpire. That is literally waving the flag and saying, hey guys, look at me, I'm breaking the rules.
Yeah, if you're going to text, get on. Okay, you can actually break this rule. Go sit on the toilet, take a dump, and scroll TikTok, text your girlfriend. We don't actually care, okay? Yeah. We don't care you technically broke the rule. You're being public, making a scene. Okay, you're kicking your feet. And like you mentioned with OBJ, yeah, he kicked the net. He knew that people would be watching that. But did he think that that would be going with him 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road? Probably not. Okay. And you need to think about these things, especially when you play for the Yankees. So I know it seems unfair at times. I know it seems hypercritical. We get that. We just care about the Yankees, and we think Jazz Chisholm playing well is super important to this team. He can't play well tomorrow if he's suspended. So that's my thing.
It's good
super
for
chat
Peraza, I guess, but
it is very good for Peraza. And yeah. So Jordan Richard with the super, thank you for the 2, says Grish him. He absolutely
won the game.
Great. He
probably
won us the game.
Probably the quietest game winner you'll ever see because it happened in the first inning or second inning. Or
exactly. So we'll take, this doesn't have to be sustainable. It's not sustainable. If it lasts a month and a half, it may be exactly what the doctor ordered for this organization. It's what we needed. And sort of what this super chat's about is next year, Spencer Jones, who this podcast is, we're high on Spencer Jones.
I love
We
Spencer
really
Jones.
like the player, and it's going to be interesting to see what the Yankees do because we know the Yankees want to bring Kyle Tucker into the mix, and that doesn't necessarily bode well for Spencer Jones and his hopes, but you can always move him to first. Who knows where they want to do with that player. Jake, any comments on Spencer Jones? Because I know you dig this prospect.
Oh yeah, I mean he needs to get called up. He's raking right now. 5 homers early on. Over 1,000 OPS. I don't know if you've been following in Double-A. Move him up to Triple-A. Let's get the ball rolling here. And some people would say, well, he's comfortable. I don't want him to be comfortable. Why would I want him to get comfortable and be stuck in this just nonstop?
I hate that.
What do we call it?
That.
What do we call it, Garrett? Well, you and I have talked about this before. It's the thing that YouTube does with the algorithm, when they change it all the time. It's an infinite treadmill. That's what they call it. That's an infinite treadmill. You're keeping him in Double-A for what? It's so stupid. I mean, so stupid. He's 24 years old. He should be in Triple-A, and he's telling us this by the way he's hitting. I don't care that it's only 12 games. The guy has 5 home runs in 12 games. 5, Gary. He's nuking pitches. Every time I go on Twitter, it's one of the Yankees accounts well, he hit another home run. It's why is he in Double-A?
But they just love him to be comfortable.
Started in Double-A. What?
No, I don't like it. But this is
either.
the thing. Good problem to have, I guess. We need some talent in the organization. Again, if you guys want the high prize free agent, I'm right behind you. I'm pushing that as hard as I can on this podcast, and we'll get to all that, especially this offseason. But they got to hit on some of these guys, and Spencer Jones is one of them. So I know 2 sides of the coin. If you bring a guy up too early, there's more polished guys maybe in Double-A, Triple-A, whatever it is. And now you're running the risk of almost shell-shocking one of your talented prospects. So they're trying to avoid it, making it almost seem like you're overqualified for the position. Now we'll bring you up. So, yeah.
They do
but
that.
Totally agree. Spencer Jones is going to be a very fun watch. And Ronnie with the super, he's been sensational these last 2 days. I told him, well, actually, I personally thanked him for the super last night, but I want to make sure that he knows how thankful we are of him. Says AMPD about a Johnny Lowe Weaver Williams. Now, Johnny Lowe, in my opinion, and then I want to kick this over to you because I want to know your opinion, Jake, on Johnny Lowe. We don't see him often. He is hurt.
We do not.
He is hurt quite a bit. The stuff is there. It's always been there. And he's a guy who can deal in high leverage. Not a problem. And he is also a guy who's going to put the ball on the ground where our infield defense is much better. No Gleyber Torres, right? So our defense, Paul Goldschmidt over at first. No Rizzo. Better. Okay? Now, my thing is this. You're now looking at Johnny Lowe, who potentially could be pitching in a 5th or 6th inning of a game if you don't get length from a starter. We now trust, right now, Cruz, Leiter Jr., Weaver, and Williams. Okay? And Williams is iffy. He's kind of working his way back in there. And now you want to bring Johnny Lowe into the mix? Now our bullpen looks formidable, at least for a regular season. It looks very nice, Jake. Yeah, what do you think about Johnny Lowe? Because I'm always so iffy on this whole idea.
Well, I love the idea of having him, and if you get him for a month, I'll take it. But like, if that's the case, Gary, if I was told, okay, you get him for a month, I'll wait till October to have that in the pen. You know what I mean? So I think
so
really,
Kawhi the guy.
Yeah, Kawhi Leonard the guy. Exactly. Let's put it this way, Gary. I just went to his Savant page, okay? And this tells you the story. So since 2018, I just see red everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Just everywhere. However, he's only qualified 2020, 2021, 2022.
Okay.
Did not in 2023 and did not in 2024. He's qualified 3 years since 2018, which means he hasn't played enough. Why hasn't he played enough? Because he's always hurt. If that doesn't explain who he is in a nutshell, I don't know what does, Gary. Because to me, that is exactly what he is. He is a guy that will have all the red bars going. Well, he has some blue bars, but that's not the point. Has a lot of red, which is good. You want red on Savant. I need to make that very clear as well.
Yes.
Red means go in Savant. So essentially, a lot of red, right? Really good stuff. And we're talking about like high 90s percentile, even up to 100 percentile. But the problem is he's not on the mound enough. And and this is what I'll say too. I don't want to come off like, oh yeah, well, I'll take him as long, for as long as we have him. Here's why that could be a problem too. When you get used to him, right? You get him integrated in your bullpen. I think bullpens are kind of underrated in what I would say continuity, right? Because I think you have to gel, Gary. I do. I think it's teamwork in the bullpen. I think in more cases, the bullpen rotation is more touchier in usage than the starting rotation. And so by having a guy like that in there, you have to understand, Gary, you are taking Jonathan Loaisiga, who has not pitched since about this time last year, and you are replacing a guy that already had the rev up process, a guy who's been with this team, probably has given some good outings, and you're putting him in AAA, or you're outright DFAing him and losing him in free agency. And then he goes down the next day, and what do you say, right? That guy's gone. And not only that, I think it just disrupts your flow. So say he get not even just looking at that aspect, Gary, but also looking at it from terms of this guy goes out and he's dominant. And now all of a sudden he's worked his way in the 7th or 8th inning. Well, what's Boone going to do? Getting used to this, he's already kind of just flipped the bullpen to him, and now he gets hurt. It's like, I can go back to what was working before, but again, bullpen, it's about confidence and continuity, and you might not have that if he goes down. So it's not as simple as, I'll take him as long as I have him. I was joking about that. There's a lot more to it, and I think bullpen, in a lot of ways, Matt Blake is dealing with a scientific project back there.
Yeah, and he's too talented to just give up on him, and that's the reason he's around. And obviously, he has loyalty to this organization, but sometimes it does tie your hands up a little bit. All right, well, this guy is too talented. He's got to be on the roster, right? It's almost like the kid in college who's on the baseball team, and you don't know if he's going to be eligible or not because he's just garbage in the classroom. And then all of a sudden, they're like talking to the school, talking to the dean, and then he ends up on the roster at the last second, and the kids are like, I had good grades the whole semester, and then now I don't play. So I don't know. It's one of those things where if he's there, great, but if he's going to show up, we need him to be there at the end. It can't be this thing where he shows up, puts his toes in the pool, and then gets out the pool. That can't be a thing. So I understand Ronnie's excitement. I'm excited too, but he's got to show us he can be on the field. And MD with the super says, love the show, guys. Thank you, MD. Saw you last night as well. Thank you for that. Says, I feel it's an issue in today's game. So many new school players don't value every single at bat anymore, like the 90s and 2000s. Yeah, I would say that in general, when you have pitchers that have such incredible stuff, it's very difficult, probably a little bit more difficult in today's game, to get locked in for an at-bat. When guys are throwing 102, your team's down 4, it's cold, and you feel like, why am I taking this at-bat? It's like I'm hitting against Randy Johnson every other at-bat. And this at bat technically for the game is meaningless. The problem, and this is MD's point, is that no at bat is pointless because there's value to you as an individual. And if you as an individual have positive habits throughout an entire consistent regular season, by the end, you can trust who you're going to be. But if you just decide to flip the switch on and off every day and just decide, is this moment big enough for me to focus? Well, you're going to have a really hard time getting that switch to turn on when you really need it. So I completely agree. It is what it is, and there's nothing I could do to change it, but we will talk about it.
You know what this is? I'm going to have a kind of weird analogy here. You ever play one of those RPG games? You know, it's like you're picking up stuff, you're looting, and it's like after a while, Gary, you play for like 3-4 hours, and you're like, I don't even want to loot that guy. I've been looting all day. I'm good. I'm over encumbered, whatever. So you don't do it, right? But you leave behind some good items. And so what ends up happening is because you didn't do I know it's a naggy thing, but you didn't drop all the stuff that you had because you were over encumbered and you were too lazy to pick up the loot. So now you come across later on in the game, you need that thing that you just left and you have no idea where it is. That is like not putting your effort in with baseball. If you are not putting together at bats, like you're every single time you go up there, you're trying to look at it as it's game 7 of the World Series. Well, you're not really preparing yourself down the road, and you're building bad habits like the not looting thing. I'm building the bad habit of I'm just eventually, Gary, just going to not loot anything. I'm just rushing through the game and my character's not going to be as strong. Well, it's no different than hitting. If you're rushing through it, and trust me, I could also relate this to golf. I mean, if you just rush through things, are you really getting the experience? Is that experience valuable?
You know what Tiger Woods says, by the way? Tiger Woods actually has a great quote. And this actually came from his caddy back in the day, like in 99, 2000, okay? And they said, oh, Tiger Woods is sort of like Michael Jackson, right? Like, isn't he? He's going to just practice and just be a psychopath in the development process and the preparation. And his caddy goes, nah, not really. Huh? What do you mean? Oh, well, the way it works is he's going to show up in every single rep he takes. It's not going to take more reps than anybody else. But when he goes to the range, the average player is just going to beat 25 balls. They're going to hit their pitching wedge 25 times. They're going to grab their 9, hit it 25 times. And they're going to feel like when they walk away from the range, well, I hit 2,000 balls, so I must have gotten better. Tiger Woods would show up and hit 100 golf balls in a day, which is nothing, by the way, for a golfer. And he would simulate, okay, this is the third tee at the Masters, and I need to hit a cut off that tree. And if it doesn't cut, it is a bad rep. Not all practice is good practice. You may have taken 600 at bats this season, but to MD's point, if you focus for 345 of them, because 345 of them mattered to you for whatever reason, well, how much better did you get? You got half a season's worth of work. So my feeling is these guys have to focus in. I think Jazz Chisholm is way too talented. I think Anthony Volpe is much too talented to make these repeat mistakes, which is what this next super chat is about. Saying Volpe, thank you, TJ. Want to make sure we call out your name here. Thank you for the 5. Says Volpe got gassed up on a fastball all night long. Todd Frazier brought this up beautifully on the broadcast. He's absolutely correct. TJ is. Says, look bad at the plate, but he was getting busy in there in the field. Yeah, so we want to make sure he gets credit for what he did with the glove. It's part of the reason we won this game. Sensational relay throw over to Cabrera at third base to gun out that runner. We don't win this game without that play. But for the Yankees to go where they need to go, Jake, Anthony Volpe needs to find a higher baseline for his level of at-bats, and he knows this. So we're rooting for that to happen, but it hasn't happened yet. And when it does, I mean, we're certainly going to notice.
Yeah, I agree and appreciate again, TJ. And I also want to say, because you mentioned Todd Frazier, I like Todd Frazier in the booth. I'm not going to lie. I think
spectacular.
He's pretty good. I think he's really good. Yeah, and it's funny because kind of going back to that whole practice rep thing, right? There are 2 sayings in baseball that I heard all the time, and I think they're terrible, right? Practice makes perfect because, first off, no one's perfect. We're not perfect creatures, but perfect practice would be the thing. Perfect practice makes perfect. practicing and you're not knowing what you're doing isn't going to make you perfect.
I go to the range all the time. I'm not getting perfect.
You know, if I'm hitting off a tee and I keep hitting the base of the tee and not the ball, I'm not going to turn into Aaron Judge because I put in the work. I'm putting in the wrong work. The second thing,
yes,
keep your eye on the ball. I hated it so much. My dad always said, follow the ball to the bat. What the hell is keep your eye on the ball? It'd always be some random person in the stands. And I'd just be like, what? Like, I hated that. I always hated that saying.
Squash the bug. All attributes that have nothing to do with baseball. Because actually, I don't know if you remember the show Sports Science, and then we'll get back on track here. But they literally proved, you're actually not even looking at the baseball when you make contact with it. Your eyes are actually closed.
Yeah.
You make a guess based on the information that your brain has. You swing where you think the ball is going to be. And then it ends up there. And if there's any, basically, you didn't account for any movement, any speed drop off or increase, you're off at all, you're not going to be able to adjust your swing. You've already committed. So that's an interesting part. But yeah, to the point, Volpe was predictably getting gassed up, which is why Todd Frazier brought it up. He said, hey, I, as a pitcher here, Michael Kay asked him, hey, would you throw anything else other than a heater? He's like, oh, God, no. He blew him away with 2 100-mile-an-hour fastballs. Why would you throw anything else? And then he threw the slider and struck him out anyway. So I was like, you know what?
That was disgusting, though.
It was gross, but I was like, I don't know if Volpe could have gotten any pitch and hit it. And
that's true. When you're in that,
poor guy.
You're in that position. I know, I feel bad. When you're in that position, you could just tell Volpe is not having fun right now.
No.
When he gets to the plate, he just does not want to be there. He wants to clock out. Like, you know. Apex, appreciate the 2. This team with Luis and Cole would have beat the Dodgers. I don't want to say that, but I get what he's saying. And I mean, this is exactly what I said before the season. If the Yankees go to the World Series and they play the Dodgers have to show up and win 4 games, just like the Yankees have to show up. And we saw they had a shot this past World Series with not as great of a team. Now, they won't have Cole and all that if that were to happen, and we don't even know if that will happen. But the point is, I don't want to make any, like, on both sides. I don't want to just say the Dodgers are going to sweep them, and I don't want to say that the Yankees would have beat the Dodgers. I don't think that's giving the Dodgers enough credit for what they did this offseason. So, you know, really, I totally get what Apex is saying. Obviously, Luis and Cole, and this is already the 4th best team right now, best team in the AL, you know, stats-wise. I get it, but I just don't want to make that kind of resounding, you know, I don't know. I think it's way too early, but I just think we're underselling the Dodgers a little bit, is what I'll say.
Yeah, and you also don't get to lose to somebody and then just bring in additions and say, well, if we had this guy, we would have beat you. Because, I mean, if you said that to the Dodgers, they'd be like, well, who gives a rat's behind? Because now you guys have that player, and then we have Blake Snell, right? We have Sasaki. So they also made additions. They also had re-signings occur. So for me, the Dodgers, as far as results go, they beat us in 5 games. We didn't make it a good series. It just is what it is, and I will never sugarcoat that. I understand this organization, given what we are and what we showed tonight defensively, we're highly unlikely to lose a World Series game in the fashion that we lost it. But you know what? There are ways that this organization has regressed offensively as well, that potentially wouldn't put us in that 5-run lead situation that we happen to find ourselves in. So you just can't say that about prior teams, and then your addition, they don't get to make any. So I just want to give the Dodgers all the credit. They deserve it. They won the World Series. And certainly the Padres feel the same way. They should have won that series in the championship series. They crapped down their leg. It's unfortunate for them, but you don't get any redos in this sport. That's the beauty and the curse of it. So we really appreciate it. And Brian says, a team I was concerned about, I'm not now. This is exciting baseball. I'm glad to see some people excited about this team. Obviously, I still said they would win 86 to 88 games, but I'm thrilled that Brian's excited. Says Rice is slowly, Jake, becoming the present. What do you think about Ben Rice? I just want to give you the floor.
I love that you asked me, because I'll talk about Ben Rice every episode. I don't give a rip.
Go ahead, and then let's wrap.
Yeah, so Ben Rice is a player that I don't remember the last time he had soft contact, Gary. I'm being honest with you. I like, can you recall? Because I think every single out he hits it over 100 miles an hour off the bat. It's insane. You know, he had 2 hits today off the bat that went over 100 miles an hour. His single was 106. Or excuse me, that was yesterday. No, he had 2 today as well. Yeah.
Well,
so
he was robbed today of a homer.
He was robbed. He was definitely, he was robbed of a home run. That we won't get into how everybody makes crazy web gem catches against the Yankees. That proves my point. But the
Lakers of the league.
106 line out, 105 line out. The 106 was over the wall. Of course, Caballero, robbed it. And then he had that line out in center. And it's funny because they show center and it looks like it died. You don't realize he hit that 105 miles an hour.
Brother, Ben Rice is going to make, regardless of where he's playing, the hard contact is going to play any day of the week. This is the whole reason. I just want to remind everyone, and I know that he's a lemon now, but DJ LeMahieu was brought to this organization because of his velocity off the barrel. That's why the Yankees brought him to pinstripes. Now, his launch angle was atrocious. He was just pounding the ball into the ground.
Killing bugs.
And he was killing bugs, killing all the worms. And the Yankees said, we think we can fix that. We think our hitting coach can do something with this. And certainly they did. He went and won a batting title. He helped the Yankees a lot. We got pretty close there. In the championship series, he was a huge help. Ben Rice, every at-bat, Jake, and not every at-bat. He's going to get 600 at-bats this year. Maybe probably 500. He's going to be splitting some time maybe, here and there. But Ben Rice, every single at-bat is finding a way some way or another before the at-bat concludes to make hard contact. By the end of the season, when you're doing this and you're a player that's this big, this tall, this strong, you're going to hit some homers, Jake. You're going to produce some runs. And when you lose a player like Juan Soto and we make some other additions on the roster, perhaps Ben Rice's production is going to be enough for this Yankees team to go where they desperately need to go.
Yeah, I'm looking at yesterday, Gary, 107, 110, 106, 96, and 94.6.
Ridiculous.
So he had 4 out of 5 barrels. That's insane. His ground out, by the way, was the hardest hit ball he had. And
he's not platooning, by the way. There. He is not a designated at bat against right-handed hard throwers. No. Ben Rice, if we saw Chris Sale tomorrow, Ben Rice is in the lineup. And that goes to show the level that he's brought himself to. And Kashmir Black with the super thank you, Kashmir, says, what's the possibility of a Subway Series? It's certainly possible. I mean, you guys saw what the Mets did in the postseason last year. Obviously, they came in, I think, 89-win team. They certainly weren't favorites. You got the Padres and the Dodgers. I'm not betting against the NL West. I'm just telling you guys.
Yeah,
I'm not. I had to bet on who any team in the American League is going to see in the World Series, you'd have to imagine you're going to see a team in the NL West. I mean, obviously, the games are played for a reason. It's no sure thing. But would I like to see it? I think we've gone long enough, Kashmir, that I couldn't care less. We could play the Marlins in the World Series or the Dodgers and get revenge. I just want to win badly. So not necessarily saying I'm rooting for any matchup. I just don't care. I want to win.
Yeah. I hear you. It's, I agree. I don't really care. I know Mets fans want to see the Yankees so badly. I don't care. Hey, Delio. Is it Delio? I can't read.
I was trying to figure it out, but I think you're close.
I'm gonna have to look in.
Thank you for becoming a YouTube member, Jake's a fool. We really appreciate you. Welcome to the club. You won't regret it.
Off air yesterday, I was just like,
Jake is technically blind. He also doesn't sleep. But welcome to the club. Thank you for supporting this channel. And Alex Reyes with the super, thank you for the 2, says this would be hosting MLB players. Any plans? What do you mean?
Y'all be perfect in hosting MLB players. He's talking about interviews.
Oh, well, we're going to if they let us, we want to go to winter meetings. We tried to go last year and they got back to us and were like, hey, the deadline was weeks ago. So we weren't able to go, which was atrocious. But this year, if you don't see us at winter meetings, it's because Major League Baseball said you turds aren't coming, which would be crazy Because, I mean,
I'll go tweet about it like Jazz. Are you kidding me?
Exactly. I mean, we're absolutely going to do our best. And, I mean, of course, we're going to bring all the usual suspects on, John Morosi, Rob Nightingale, right? So we're going to be bringing those guys on. But hopefully we should have a booth at winter meetings where we bring some players on. And we do have a couple players, and we're trying to bring those on probably sometime in July around the deadline when it gets juicy. We've got some pretty cool players and cool guests for you guys, so we're excited.
Always excited. Let's see. Is that all the super chats? I mean, good Lord, you guys.
Yes, it is.
Showed up and showed out. It was, fun night. Fun night indeed. I think that's going to do it. Tomorrow, Cookie is on the mound, taking on Shane Boz. It's so funny because if somebody's tuning in and has no idea who Cookie is, they're like, he just said Cookie, right? Like,
yeah.
Shane Boz is on a freaking tear, dude. He has 27 strikeouts in 19 innings. He looks like how he was supposed to be. Like, he was a top prospect and dealt with a lot of injuries. Well, he's back from his injuries, and yeah, he's a 1.42 ERA, 2-0 with a .84 WHIP, and he only has walked 4 guys in 19 innings. So,
you know what I was thinking of, Jake?
What's that?
I was thinking Anthony Volpe, and a super chat brought this up earlier. Mm-hmm. You know, Anthony Volpe is 3 for his last 34 with 15 Ks. Perhaps they could just give him one day off and then show back up. But you know what? When Cookie is pitching, you have to imagine there's going to be a lot of contact. I don't know if I want that happening. So I'm sorry, Volpe. Tough matchup tomorrow. Put your boots on. It's time to play some ball.
If it wasn't a tough matchup, do you know what I would do tomorrow?
What would you do?
Because I'm a psychopath. Second base, I would put Cabrera.
Okay.
Shortstop, I would put Peraza.
Okay.
And third, I'd put Ben Rice.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the scouting report is they didn't like, I think the arm, they didn't like it behind the plate, which I don't know how much I care about that, but I guess they don't. Well, Boone shut it down immediately. So you have to imagine there's something that they've seen that says he cannot play third base. Obviously not what we love to hear, but
I just don't get it with that athletic profile. I really don't.
And we get it. Like, just because you can run doesn't mean you can play short. But
no, I know. But like,
it would be nice.
He should be able to play at least like second, maybe.
Perhaps.
If the arm is the issue, then maybe maybe I'd play him at second. Have Peraza at the hot corner. Peraza can play any position in the field except for first. I'm pretty sure at this point. So.
I mean, hell, the way Goldschmidt's playing, we start him at short tomorrow. Dude's a banshee. He's everywhere.
Oh, my God. He's so athletic for that size. I don't think people give him enough credit for that athleticism. And, I mean, it's not like he runs like a track star. I'm not trying to say that.
Very true. And, by the way, so are we retiring the movie thing, by the way? Can we just, like, start saying random stuff?
Well, I mean, we could do movie. We can do entertainment. We could do, like, I already broke it. I did video game and TV
I've got a video game because I think you did the last one. So for those of you who are new, I know we have Delio. We have a new member, Delio22. So there are some new people here. But for those of you who don't know, don't drop it in the live now. But when the video goes live, hop back in the video and leave Red Dead Redemption 2 in the comment section, the greatest video game to ever be created. I cannot wait for GTA. I've been telling Jake about this for a long time. Same creators, of course, with Rockstar. But Red Dead is the best game ever. I absolutely love this game. Drop that in the comments. We'll know you were here at the end of the video. And, of course, like the video because, I mean, helps the algorithm.
Yeah, you heard him. Like the video.